This is your Math 5B quiz number 9 taken on January 29th, 2020. Although it says 28, your quiz is actually out of 30. There's 12 points on the front, 16 on the back, and then 2 points for naming period. Question number 1. We have this Ken. Fill in the blank squares so that each row and each column contain all the digits 1 through 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Numbers in the cages may repeat as long as they are not in the same row or column. The math operations were addition. You had two numbers that subtract. You had two numbers that multiply. And then you had division. A lot of students got stuck on the division part. A lot of students were just stuck on 4 or 2. Well, you can also use what? 1 and 2, or 2 and 1. So here's the correct answer. If you had all of those numbers, then you got 4. If it was incorrect, you got a 1. Question number 2, given x plus 5. So this is called a factor. It says write the 0 that corresponds to each factor. Write the 0, that means it's going to say x equals. That's what my answer is going to be. So if I set it equal to 0 and subtract 5, I have x equals negative 5. Your choice is B for number 2. Question number 3, given x equals 2, write the factor that corresponds to each 0. Well, in this case, I want to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. My factor is x minus 2. If you'll notice that none of these have x minus 2, your answer is E. Question number 4, find the remainder. If you'll notice the hint over here, all I have to do is write f of x. What does that tell me? Every x value I'm going to replace with negative 2. Now you could do something complicated. You could set that, you could find a factor for that. Add 2 to both sides and you got x plus 2, and then you can use long division if you really wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it. You could take x equals negative 2 and then do synthetic division, still find the remainder. But here, it's kind of set up to do the remainder theorem. What does that mean? You just take the number and substitute it in. Every x value, you're going to put in a negative 2. Don't forget to make sure you're putting your substitutions in parentheses. Negative 2 cubed, remember you're using PEMDAS. So I'm going to do exponents first before I multiply. Negative 2 cubed is negative 8. Negative 8 times 2 is 16. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. And then you have 15. And if you add all those numbers together, you get negative 19. Question number 4, your answer is B. Question number 5. A lot of students didn't have any work, I noticed, even on a multiple choice, which means I knew they didn't know how to do the problem. They were just either guessing. You're given 7x squared minus x plus 1. Now, if you try to solve this by factoring, a times c is 7, your b value is negative 1. There are no two numbers that multiply to be 7 but add to be negative 1, so that means you can't factor. Can't factor basically means prime. Now, notice prime is not your answer choice because you can still solve the problem. Solving means I need an x value. Well, you can use the Pythagorean theorem. Write down the formula first. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'm going to make sure they're all set equal to 0. A is 7, b is negative 1, c is positive 1. If I do the substitution, my b value is negative 1. My a value is positive 7. And my c value is positive 1. And then my a value is 7. Opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. Plus or minus the square root. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Negative 4 times 7 times 1 is negative 28. 1 minus 28 is negative 27. For the past 2 quizzes, this is where students had difficulties. The factors of negative 27 are -1, 3, and 9. The square root of -1 is I. The square root of 9 is 3. Did you notice that this 3 does not have a square root on it? And then you have the radical 3 here. My answer is, now this is an odd, even. So there is no greatest common factor. So my answer is 1 plus 3i times radical 3 over 14. And the second answer is 1 minus 3i radical 3 over 14, which is choice A. So you had 2 points for 5, 2 points for 4, 2 points for 3, 2 points for 2, and then 4 points for number 1. That's 12 points for the front side. Turn to the back side. Number 6 says free response. Make sure to show all your work and box your answers. This is your 10th quiz, or 9th quiz. Some students are still not boxing your answers. You are losing points on a free response. Determine each quotient. Quotient just means division. That's the answer of division using polynomial synthetic division. Write the dividend as the product of the divisor and the quotient plus the remainder. For synthetic division, I'm going to take x minus 1, the factor, and make it a 0. Set it equal to 0, add 1, x equals 1. This is what I'm putting here on the outside. I'm looking at the coefficients. They drop down. Your steps for factoring, if you look at your formula sheet, we have it right here. We're going to bring it down, multiply diagonally, add down, and then repeat. Bring it down, multiply, add down, multiply, add down, multiply, add down, multiply. You have 0 as your answer for the remainder. Now, you do not write the remainder as part of your answer. I have the constant, -8. I'm going to add an x, so that becomes 4x. Add another x, so that's -2x squared, and another x, that's 1x cubed. The dividend in this problem is the original. The divisor is x minus 1 times, zoom in more, the quotient is our answer, x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 8, and the remainder is plus 0 over x minus 1. Now, if you did not write this part, I didn't penalize you for that. The partial credit for that problem, if you just filled out the top row of the synthetic division, if you can tell me the coefficients, I gave you 2 points. If you gave a correct answer, such as this, but you had no statement. The statement was the dividend equals not the words, but what was underneath. And if you missed a part of it, then you got 3.75. Okay? It is actually important. Some students, you may have missed it, or look at your partner's paper. You cannot put a parentheses right here. This is actually included inside the parentheses. Okay? So it's the quotient plus the remainder all in one parentheses. Question number 7. Determine each quotient using polynomial long division. Write the dividend as a product of the divisor and the quotient plus remainder. So same statement as above. First thing you're going to do using long division, using your formula sheet, you're going to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then repeat. So x and 2x cubed. Here's my side problem. These x's cancel, and you're left with 2x squared. 2x squared times x is 2x cubed, negative 4x squared. Now you're going to subtract. When you subtract, put them in these parentheses here. This is where a lot of students got it wrong. 2 minus 2 is 0, negative 1, minus a negative 4 is positive 3. I think a lot of students wrote 5 there. Incorrectly 5. Remember, that's the opposite of negative 4 is positive 4, negative 1 and positive 4 is a positive 3. Bring this down, that's negative 13x. X goes into 3x squared. 3x is your answer. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. Put those in parentheses. Subtract. 3 minus 3 is 0. Negative 13 minus 6. Remember, use your calculator if you're struggling there. That's negative 7x. Bring down the negative 6. X goes into negative 7x. My x's cancel, and then you're just left with a negative 7. Negative 7 times x gives me negative 7x. Negative 7 times negative 2 gives me positive 14. Then I'm going to subtract. Negative 7 minus negative 7 is 0. Negative 6 minus 14 is negative 20. The common mistake there is either 8 or negative 8. I'm going to do the same thing. My dividend is the original problem. That's the inside. The divisor is the outside. The quotient is what's on top. And here, it's minus. So 20 here is minus. I didn't lose any points. But you wouldn't write plus minus. That's why I circled for some of you. Put the minus sign there in the same line as a fraction. This whole expression is negative. Again, you didn't lose points for that part. All right, you got something correct, like 2x squared, and the rest of it is wrong. I gave you a 2. If you did long division and there was like a small error in here, I probably gave you a 3 and then partial credit for others. Question number 8. I think of all of them, I think the long division was probably the most missed on the backside. Question number 8. There are 3 things you needed to do: factor, identify the zeros, and make a sketch. To factor, it has 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I use my factoring flowchart, I'm going to do factoring by grouping, which means put it inside the box. So I'm going to put this inside the box. X cubed minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. And then I'm just going to pull out the greatest common factor. So this one has an x squared. This one is a negative 3. And this one's a negative 4. And this is what I know students were not doing. Everyone say multiply. You can multiply to check your answer. X squared times x is x cubed. Minus 3 is negative 3x squared. X times 4 is 4x. And negative 3 times negative 4 is a positive 12. Sorry, we are having technical difficulties.
You should do a podcast.
All right, once you have the outsides, you have x minus 3, x squared minus 4. Now you'll notice in this problem you have to add a 0x. Now a lot of you guys are misapplying the difference of squares problems. On the previous square, a lot of students got like x squared minus 16 and they thought it was like x plus 16, x minus 16. Again, go through it slow until you understand it. The placeholder there is 0x. This gives you a trinomial, a, b, and c. And then you can just do a times c is negative 4. B value is 0, and you'll have 2 and negative 2 as your answer. So 2 and negative 2. And this is x minus 3. They call these linear factorization. They're all to the first power. So that is how do you factor. To solve, you're just going to set it equal to 0. X equals negative 2. Add 2 here. X equals positive 2. Add 3, and then x equals positive 3. And then to graph that, it is a power of 3. So that means it is a odd degree, starts down, ends up, just like x to the first. I have negative 2, positive 2, and positive 3. There are going to be shoot-throughs on all of those. Y-intercept is 12. The partial credit I gave was if you filled out the box correctly but you couldn't get the outside, it gave you 2 points. If you got one of them correct, whether it be factoring, identifying the 0, or graph, you got 3 points. And if you got 2 of these correct, then you got 3.5. And then question number 9. Show all your work and explain, is x minus 3 a factor of this polynomial? There's actually 3 ways to solve it. You don't have to choose all 3. And I'm sure, hopefully, you did one of the 3. You can use the factor or remainder theorem. You can use synthetic division, or you can use long division. Let me explain the remainder theorem. Set the factor, get a 0. Substitute in every x value. Simplify, 27. 9 times 12 gives you, 108. 51 and negative 30. And if you add those all together, you get 156. If you did the synthetic division, you're using the x equals 3. You have 1, 12, 17, and negative 30. Synthetic division just tells you to bring it down, multiply, add down, multiply, add down, multiply, and you get 156. So each of those methods will give you 156. If you chose to do long division, x goes into x cubed, x squared, multiply. 1 minus 1 is 0. 12 minus negative 3 is 15. Bring it down. X goes into 15x squared, 15x times, multiply. 15 minus 15 is 0. 17 minus negative 45 is 62x. Bring it down is negative 30. X goes into 62x, 62 times, multiply, and you'll still get 156. Is it a factor? The answer is no. It's not a factor because there's a remainder. If you drew yourself a polynomial, and this is my polynomial, it's a cubic, y-intercept of negative 30. The question is, what's happening at x equals 3? Does it cross the x-axis? The answer is no, it doesn't. The partial credit I gave is if you did it all correctly, like you found the remainder would be 156, but no explanation, and gave you a 3.5. Or some kind of partial credit, and then the back sides were 16. And then that was the rest of your quiz.